Okay, everybody, we are live. Welcome to another Thursday Carnivore Mastermind. I'm excited as usual to be sitting down with my other friendly carnivore panelists here and all of you in the chat. And of course, if you're in the replay, welcome as well. And we have our fourth and final guest, I think, for tonight added to our panel. So thanks everybody for being here and happy Thursday to you all. We did something slightly different this week. Instead of a poll, I just asked you guys a question for the week. And so I'm going to pull that up to start out. And because, we've been talking a lot about sort of technical questions, exercise supplements, macros, fitness, all this kind of stuff lately, which is great. But I wanted to sort of just go back to sharing some stories and, focusing on the things that are positive and that are moving us forward. And, as most of you know who are following my channel, the sort of tagline is for my channel is become who you are. And I truly believe that nutrition and the right nutrition, the proper human diet is the foundation for becoming who you are. I believe that we have to get that in line first before we can really pursue any of our higher goals, passions, and fulfill our callings in life. And so I was curious to know this week something kind of along those lines from you, which was what's one thing that your health journey taught you about yourself that you didn't know previously? So maybe something you've discovered about your character or your resilience or your mindset or your XYZ that maybe you didn't know before you went through this journey. I know there's been several of these types of things that have happened for me. And so that's what I wanted to hear from you guys about this week. And we got several comments, and I want to highlight a few before we start going around the panel tonight. Darth Carnivore is the top of the comments list here. He says, by abstaining from cheat meals on carnivore, I've definitely effectively self-extracted that sweet tooth my dentist couldn't find. Haha. This has made the biggest difference in me feeling awesome, alive, and energized every day, despite being surrounded by all the hyper-processed things masquerading as food. And I think that's so powerful, right? That food freedom that you experience, eliminated cravings from all these things masquerading as food, right? And there's temptations everywhere. And so being free from that is so powerful. And it's almost like living in a different body, a different situation. Proud to be Weird says you learned that you're in control of your health, which is something that's so simple, but it's so profound, right? And you also said, I'm amazed by the ability of the human body to heal itself. That's one of the things that amazed me as well. It's like, if we can just get out of the way, essentially, and put the right things in and eliminate the right things, the body takes care of itself in many ways. And so that's so true. We each are in control of our own health. And I think so often we are conditioned to give our power away to modern medicine, to the standard of care, and to the establishment, and what that the paradigm is. And so one of the biggest and most profound changes I think you can realize is that you really are in control of your health by the choices you make. R.H. Shrimpton says, so many improvements, but two main big surprises. The first one, the chronic low-grade anxiety and negative talkback in my brain has gradually vanished, and I'm finally discovering who I really am. I love that. Number two, I'm much more athletic than I ever gave myself credit for. HIIT sprinting is changing my body inside and out, along with Carnivore Diet, sunlight exposure, and better sleep. My life is brimming with possibility, and that's what I love, is that we can literally see new opportunities, new possibilities for the potential that we have and what our life could be like once we get to this other side. A lot of other great comments. Inner discipline from John. Rent My Dust says you can skip meals now and it doesn't kill you. So just, again, that sense of food freedom, not having to revolve our entire lives around food and thinking about it. Lynn Tucker Carnivore says how to stay doctor free, except for the carnivore docs, of course, be able to be healthy and out of the medical system, being independent. That's so important. And there's a shout out to you, Carrie, and Adam in here in this comment as well. Valuing your contribution and how this documentary, Healing Humanity documentary, will really change the world. So there's a lot of great comments in here. Willpower is stronger every day from Bible Reading Bear. And so thank you everybody for sharing your experiences and the things that you've discovered about yourself now that you've gotten your nutrition in line and you're starting to heal and feel so much better. So on that note, we'll kind of do the standard and go around the panel here and just give everybody an opportunity to introduce yourself and share any of the things that you feel like you're becoming now or that you've discovered about yourself since you've healed and gotten your nutrition right.
Me first?
Yeah, sorry. We'll start with Cami and go around that way.
My name is Cami. My channel is Last Day of Normal because I don't want to be normal anymore. I want to have the last day be behind me so I can be something different, better, extraordinary. And I feel that way. So it's been since last March that I started carnivore, and I'm feeling so good. And so one of the superhuman powers that I have now is that when something goes wrong, I don't feel dependent on a doctor or somebody else to figure it out. So my arms started getting itchy, and like I was itchy everywhere, and I was able to figure out and change things for myself to fix it. I was way over detoxing. I was using a lot of iodine, and on top of that, then I started adding castor oil. And so my body was pulling out all kinds of toxins, and it was just way too much. And I figured that out on my own. I didn't need to go to a dermatologist who would have done what? Give me some kind of topical something or other that would not have helped the situation at all. I was able to figure out what I was doing and change it. And that is so empowering. It's amazing how good that feels. And so I hear stories about people doing amazing things and feeling better all the time. And honestly, if there was a laser beam from space and everybody started having these experiences, we would all be becoming superheroes, right? Like, so I just printed a couple off of one video from Dr. Ken Berry. I woke up at 5:30 this morning and I didn't eat my first meal of the day until 1 p.m. because I wasn't hungry and they hadn't eaten since 5:30 the day before. This is like a superpower right there. I lost 12 pounds. I've only been doing carnivore for 3 months. All of my anxiety is gone and I sleep like a baby. These are miraculous things that are changing people. They're becoming superheroes. Carnivore reversed my kidney disease. My Hashimoto's has never been better. Lab results, blown away by the improvements. Like this, these are space laser results. Like an alien has sent us these miracle cures, but it just is blowing my mind that people won't try it. They won't try it. They don't see that these are miracles happening on a massive scale. And I want people to give it a try. You can be a miracle too.
Awesome. Thanks,
absolutely.
Cami.
Yeah. I'm John Lespina. I'm the Carnivore Teacher, 1965 on YouTube. I started my journey about 5.5 years ago. I went keto first, and then I got a kidney stone because I had a lot of high oxalate keto. So then I learned to cut out all the plants, and I was ketovore for about 3.5 years. And then I figured, let me go all the way and just take out the coffee and the avocado and the asparagus, and boom, my health just knocked up to the highest level, like everybody talks about. And over the 5.5 years, actually it happened within the first year, but so many, a long litany, a list of amazing improvements that I explained to Nia on one of our talks that we had a while ago. But the one that I didn't expect, that just still astounds me to today, is mental health. I would have a roller coaster, probably from the sugar and carbs, or maybe the inflammation. Just, I was the moodiest person. People who know me know I was moody. They didn't know what to expect from me. And now I'm level or up all the time, like no depression. I used to get depressed. It's gone. And that surprised me. Just blew my mind away. Of all the other amazing benefits that I don't have time to go into right now with the panel here, but just amazing. Everything that Cami mentioned, that she read off. I say at the end of all of my videos, eat well, and I always explain what that is: beef, lamb, pork, poultry, fish, and eggs, cooking and animal fats, so that you can look and feel well and become the optimized version of yourself. That's what you talked about, like a laser from heaven, an optimized version of it, like Superman. And it's free, and it's knowledge, and it's easy. And I think people don't want to buy into it because they think it has to be more complicated than that. It has to be hard to do, pills and medicine and diet plans. And it's not. It's so simple. It's so easy. I wish people have to be ready to hear the message, apparently. So I'm so glad that carries on. We can talk about his wonderful documentary that you're putting together. I mean, you're like a hero. You're going to be getting this message out in mass when this happens. You're doing things that only we can do, like a drop in the ocean with our YouTube videos. We're going to do in a mass amount with that video. So I'm so excited.
Cool.
Well,
Thanks, John. Oh, go ahead.
yeah. Thanks for your nice words. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm Carrie, and I'm doing the documentary John mentioned, Healing Humanity, the Power of a Proper Human Diet. And we had a YouTube channel as well. The biggest thing that changed for me, sort of along the lines of what John was saying, mental health wise, but I'm not scared anymore. And I realized for most of my life, I was walking around just fearful of everything. I had horrible depression for most of my adult life, but the depression aside, I guess the anxiety and just the fear I had every single day for just silly, ridiculous things that I never should have been fearful of or had anxiety for, completely gone on carnivore. Just literally like completely gone, to the point that it still amazes me, because my anxiety was so bad before. I would have phone calls with customers for years, the same customer for like 4 years. And I'd be like, I got to have this phone call with this guy on Tuesday. And I've already had probably 400 phone calls with this guy, but I would be completely anxious and I'd get all worked up and I would just be freaking out about getting on a phone call with somebody, just like foolish fear over nothing. That's one of the biggest things that's changed for me. I don't have any of that fear anymore. I don't really have fear for the future or fear of getting sick or fear from all of the health issues I've had. I don't really have any fear at all anymore, which is just kind of crazy and amazing. And I guess the only other thing I'll add is the brain fog. I knew I had brain fog before. I've talked about this before on my channel, but it's one of the reasons I'm passionate about the documentary as well, because there's so many people with chronic illnesses and sicknesses, myself included. But I think if we ignore all of those things, which frankly, most of humanity is, everyone's just like, well, it's just normal. It's just the way it's always been. Everyone's always been overweight and sick. If we ignore all of that, but you just take into account the fact that most of humanity right now is walking around in a brain fog. I had that brain fog and I knew I had it before, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I got deeper into carnivore. I'm thinking so much more clearly now. My cognitive ability is better. I read a book and I'm absorbing things and I'm remembering things. And it's so sad to me that most people, most of humanity, they're going to go their whole lives in that brain fog, almost like you're a little intoxicated or a little drunk your entire life, and you're never going to be able to kind of see the world clearly because of that. That's one of the reasons I'm really passionate about the documentary too, aside from all of the chronic illnesses and issues that people have. The fact that most of humanity has that brain fog, it's not like, oh, it's just a little deficit there. But when I had that brain fog, I would just come home and I'd plop down on the couch and I'd do the bare minimum and I kind of just go along to get along. And of course, I love my children, but I wasn't like going above and beyond and getting outside and kicking the soccer ball around. I was doing the bare minimum because I was so fatigued and so brain fogged and so tired. And when the majority of humanity is that way, it's so sad, especially when you see how successful and happy, how much gratitude carnivores have. It's like, imagine if the whole world was that way. So those are kind of the big ones for me. I'm no longer scared all the time, and my brain fog is completely gone, and it's gone to a level I didn't realize how bad it was before. I've used this analogy before. I stole it from, I think Anita from Ketogenic Woman said this to me before. She said, when you're in the fog, you can't see the fog. You got to get out of it. And it's so true. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. All right, Ellie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ellie, and I have the channel Nourishment Redacted. I discovered the keto and carnivore diet, and it truly changed my life. And I would say that it wasn't until I found carnivore that I finally unlocked who Ellie was inside. And before that, there was not much there. I think that I could categorize myself as someone who faked a smile, who was a doormat, who allowed people to take advantage of my kindness and good nature. And I just kind of, just went through life without really understanding or having any kind of drive or any want to do better. It was just like, let's just do the bare minimum, do the bare minimum, do the bare minimum. And now that I've been on carnivore, I feel like I'm a better wife and a better mother, and I'm able to keep my my family intact, because I believe family is one of the most important things. How we're raising our children, the nutrition that we're giving them, and how we present ourselves. Because I wish that, then this is kind of something that I discovered along in my carnivore journey, besides the weight loss and the mental health, which has been amazing. But I think that carnivore is kind of cheaper than therapy. And I have a lot of unresolved, like, not to be over dramatic, but like traumas and a lot of things that have happened in my childhood or early adulthood that really, really hurt me. And because I've been on carnivore now, I can now have this introspective look at myself, and it's not based on out of control emotions with like panic attacks and depression and anxiety and, being curled up in a fetal position, screaming because you can't go to work, or you can't drive, or you can't leave your house, or, you're just eating your emotions because you can't get a control of yourself. And I feel like now I have this a lot more. I could say I have this calm within myself to look deep inside and be like, okay, why are you triggered by this? Why do you have so much anger inside? And I feel like I'm kind of becoming my own therapist, and also having the support of the carnivore community as well. I think that when we all come together and we're all sharing such similar experiences, it can only bring a sense of gratitude and thankfulness and the feeling of blessed. Like, I finally found what I had been looking for, and it was something so basic as food, right? Which is one of the most important things. So I'm forever grateful for carnivore because of that. And I have so much more energy. And not to take too long on this, but I just recently moved from a home where we were having a lot of plumbing problems, and I was incredibly stressed, and I had a lot of family issues, and I could have become broken. I could have cracked. And instead of doing that, I was strong, and I decided to have a solution, like look for solution instead. And we just moved into this new home, and I just feel like I can finally grow here, and it just feels so great to be properly fueled.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks everybody for sharing that. I could second almost everything. I've experienced nearly all of the things that y'all have talked about to one degree or another over my life, and the remission of those things. And the more I think about things, the more the list just grows. And John, your episode's going to be up on Saturday. So we were kind of joking like how long your list was, but really it's important to go back and think about like all these little things that we didn't even think were issues, or like being in the brain fog and not being able to see it. All that kind of stuff is so critical to remember when you're having that hard day and you're like, oh, I want to have a cheat meal, or, oh, I just wish I could be normal, or I could do this or do that. Right. Or have something off plan. Remembering all that stuff is so important. As most of you all know, my background is from chronic digestive problems, and that resulted in a lot of other things manifesting, like skin conditions and anxiety and slash apathy and just feeling very confused and lost and broken and hopeless. And I developed an addiction to alcohol throughout my early 20s to cope with a lot of the emotional and physical pain that I was going through. And that became a problem, obviously, health wise for me as things went on, right? Because although I never got to the extreme end of, alcoholism, I was never arrested or in trouble, serious trouble, but it was enough to where I knew that I was dependent and I knew that I couldn't give it up, and I struggled with that because that was my coping mechanism. And so that's one of the biggest gifts that the carnivore diet has given me, is the ability to not depend on alcohol anymore, not depend on caffeine anymore, which I used to use as a huge crutch as well, just as a new mom to get through life and get everything done and be busy and, going through a lot of the things that I've been through over the past few years. And so I continued to look externally for things to support me to regulate my emotions and regulate my energy. And now I'm almost a year into this diet on my second round, and I'm free from all that stuff. I'm free from caffeine, I'm free from alcohol, and I'm free from binging on nasty sugar, junk, garbage stuff that would satiate me emotionally in the immediate, but then would cause me tons of digestive problems and skin problems and mental problems in the aftermath of that. And so just that alone, not even just having food freedom, but freedom from a substance that used to, I felt lost without. Like, I would get scared if I didn't have enough alcohol in the house, or if I ran out. It's like, well, what am I going to do tonight? How am I going to go to sleep? How am I going to relax? Like, I didn't know how to do any of that without those substances. And so I've had to relearn how to do that and consciously teach myself other things to do in place of that, but not having the craving and not feeling like my brain relies on the energy coming from that is what's been so powerful and allowed me to actually make progress and, not succumb to that addiction anymore. And so I read comments about that all the time, whether it's drugs, alcohol, media, any other sort of addictive behavior seems to, it's much easier to drop. It's much easier to improve. And then in the place of that, you get all this sense of purpose, the sense of drive, the sense of like, what's possible? What can I do with all this energy that I have now? And who can I really become? Instead of sort of being the person that I used to be, which was like, oh, let me drown my problems in wine or vodka, or let me drown my problems in this plate of brownies, and then throw it away before anybody can find out what I just did, type of a thing, living in shame, living in guilt, and living in denial of who I really was. And so that is like the fruit of giving up all this other junk, right? Is that now I get to wake up, and I don't have perfect days every day by any means. There's days I still struggle. There's days I still have cravings, to be honest. They're much like, fewer between times, but, so I'm not perfect, and it's not like every day is perfect, but I don't have that nagging feeling of like, I'm looking for my purpose or I'm looking for drive and energy. It's like, it's always in there. And it's like, can I actually keep up with the amount of ideas that I have? Can I actually like act on all these things? Right. That's the challenge now. And so that's a much better way to live, in my opinion. And that's one of the biggest things outside of just the physical healing, obviously, that took place in the beginning and is still taking place now. That is life-changing. And so that's kind of my spiel. Does anyone else I've been kind of trying to scroll through and look for any questions. I think I found one we can throw up here to begin with. M. Duncan says, is it possible to get sleepy right after eating steak when starting carnivore? Anyone have a thought?
Yeah, I responded to that in there, and I've heard that lions go right to sleep after they eat a big meal, and they're pure carnivore. And I know a lot of people, and I'm one of those. You have I have a big meal, and you get drowsy and go to sleep, and I don't know the reason for that, unless there's some tryptophan, extra tryptophan in there, one of the amino acids. But I don't know if this person's having too much of it, and it's starting to consume their life, the drowsiness. I don't know if they can maybe type a little more out. What do you guys, what have you experienced?
Me personally, I usually get energized after I eat a steak. I don't usually get sleepy. I feel better, but I've heard Dr. Kiltz talk a little bit more, like John was saying, about being a carnivore and taking multiple naps throughout the day. When Dr. Kiltz first taught me that, I thought that was kind of weird. And then I'm like, no, that probably is kind of more natural. It seems like the more I get into carnivore, I'm just thinking more like ancestrally, what did we do? We probably hunted, ate a big, huge meal, fasted for a few days, and we probably napped throughout the day more often. So it's probably not that abnormal. But for me personally, everybody's different, but I usually eat a steak and I seem to get kind of more energized.
I get sleepy if I eat too much for my personal capacity in one sitting. And that's something I've actually had to really consider and try to dial in, like meal timing and windows, because if I try to eat, on the one hand, for a while I was feeling really good on one meal a day, but then I wasn't able to like eat enough in that one meal. And if I ate the amount I kind of wanted or thought I should eat, then I would get tired. And so I've been pretty stable on TUMAD right now in like a 4 to maybe 6 hour window, and the window's getting earlier in the day. So I notice I have more hunger cues in the morning, usually around like 10 a.m. And then I'm done eating by like 2 or 3 o'clock usually. And then that seems to work really well for me. So I'm not digesting too close to sleep. But if I eat too much at one time, then I will get tired. So I just eat 2 smaller meals or medium-sized meals, and that helps a lot. Anybody else on this one?
The only thing I can think of is, are they possibly not fat adapted yet? And so maybe their body isn't used to all of the fat and the protein that they are consuming. I did see in the comments they're eating 2 steaks a day. Maybe you need to eat more food. Maybe you're not, getting enough nutrition in your body, or maybe you need to heal. And when we sleep, that is definitely one of the best times for us to heal, and our muscles and all of our cells and stuff like that. So I wish I knew how long this was going on, but I hope that it gets better as time goes on, because I kind of remember something similar in the beginning for me too. I did feel a little sleepy when I would eat a very large meal, but I think that does go away as time goes on.
Yeah, I'm seeing some others say that, like if they eat one big meal, it can be, and that makes sense. Like maybe John, you brought up, or someone brought up, that lions, like animals typically will do this too. They'll eat a bunch, and then they're going to fast, most likely for a longer time period. And so it's this feasting fasting thing, and it sort of makes sense. It's the rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system, right? So they sort of go together. And I've even heard Dr. Chafee say that that's one of the reasons why he eats later in the day, is because, he feels like chilling afterwards, and he feels more energized and clear and like that when he's fasted. And so he eats later in the evening, closer to bedtime. So I think, yeah, it depends on where you're at, how fat adapted you are, and the meal size, how your digestion functions. I did take some HCl for a little while when I really upped my fat back in March, and that helped me with feeling tired after eating like a lot more fat in one sitting than I was used to, because I was able to digest it a little bit easier. So that's something people can consider too, if you think you may be a little bit lacking in the stomach acid coming from whatever background. So let's see. We had another, assuming this is okay. Luis Carlos says, I can't be carnivore if I still drink coffee. Sorry, I thought I was doing this right. Raise your hand if you drink coffee still. I drink decaf, so I'm going to raise an elbow. Some days.
I responded.
None of you drink any coffee?
I responded. I don't know if I responded to that person or somebody else brought up coffee, and you can still be a carnivore and drink coffee. Absolutely. But when you do the research, knowledge is power. I learned what the coffee was doing to me. And, caffeine is similar to adenosine. We have adenosine receptors in our brain. And instead of the adenosine going into the adenosine receptors when they're supposed to, the caffeine's going in there and it's kind of unbalancing you throughout the day. And then, it's kind of like, we talk about the sugar roller coaster. That's the caffeine, adenosine roller coaster that you don't realize you've put yourself on through the years, and you kind of depend on it. That's the dependency. And then there's the vasodilation headache. Your veins get narrower in your head when you have caffeine. And then when you stop, they go back to normal, pressing on your brain, causing a severe headache. I used to get horrible headaches when I tried to stop drinking coffee. So I made a video on how I successfully did it. And that was to just very gradually replace caffeinated with decaffeinated over 30 days and just very gradually get off of it. And then I was still addicted to holding that warm mug in the morning, So then I just have water with butter melted in there just so I could do the action. And very slowly I changed that to a glass of water. So, and then Dr. Chafee talks about how they used coffee to, caffeine and coffee to kill insects. It's an insect killer. Why are we drinking it? It's a legume. It's a bean. So I understand. I was a coffee drinker. I was a major barista. I made it myself with the grinder and the beans and everything. So I understand you coffee drinkers out there. It is healthier not to drink it, though. It really is. And you'll notice the difference once you get off of it. It's like another level of energy in your day, and you sleep way better. Your sleep is drastically improved. I'll shut up now.
No, that was so interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree 100%. I found that after a couple of months on carnivore, I felt like I didn't need it anymore. And I was able to say goodbye to that crutch because I felt like coffee was a part of my identity. Like it was a ritual, like you had said, you wake up and you look forward to it, or it's something you do in the evening because the caffeine doesn't affect you anymore. So you can drink it all day and, closer to bedtime. And, one of my first jobs was working at a bakery cafe kind of place, and I was surrounded by coffee and I could have coffee all the time. And so that definitely affected my mind, and it just made me feel so jittery. So like a couple of months in, I decided my grandma was visiting, my 82-year-old grandma was visiting me, and she drinks coffee like, with all the sugar and the milk, but it's super strong. And I could see the effects that it's had on her life, because if she doesn't have it, she has these major, major migraines. And I told her, I was like, Grandma, why don't you just try, slowly cutting out the coffee and see if it would help your migraines? And she basically, told her, she said, I'd rather not live than have it. So I definitely am sympathetic to those who feel like it is a part of your identity, but I just want to have a little encouragement saying you can drink it if you're on carnivore, but don't ever feel like you have to, because there's so much more to you than that one part of your day, or maybe the whole part of your day if you're drinking it like I used to.
I have never drinking coffee in my life, but I think I'm going to start so that I can get off of it and see what you guys are talking about.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I like that idea. I never had coffee either. I was addicted to diet soda forever, but I know a lot of carnivores that drink coffee and they're okay, but I like what Nia was saying earlier about addiction. It's very interesting. I've interviewed so many carnivores and they say similar to what Nia's saying. It's like, I don't have any addictions anymore. Coffee is usually one that some people still hold on to, but that is another surprising benefit of carnivore for me, is this freedom you feel like you have when you have no more addictions anymore. And it's like when you're addicted to coffee, it kind of owns you. It's kind of in control of you. It's like, do you have to have the coffee, or is the coffee sort of having you, kind of thing? There's something really liberating doing carnivore, that when you realize I don't have any addictions anymore and I'm just sort of total in control. So I think it's worth it for doing that. I get it. It's really hard to give up that addiction too, but oftentimes a couple days, maybe a week, and then you never look back and you're away from that thing for the rest of your life. I think it's worth, I think it's worth trying to kick. I know it's hard for me with the diet soda, but I was able to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely will never go back to full caffeinated coffee. I think there was, I think what happened, because Ben still drinks regular coffee, and I think because I was having decaf and I thought his was mine one day, and I like drank a huge thing of his, and my heart was just like, I thought I was dying, and it was like a half of a cup of regular coffee, and I used to be drinking like a pot and a half of this stuff a day just to like try to stay alive, and it was such an awakening. I was like, holy crap, this is what I was doing to myself on like a 10x scale every day. Like I didn't feel like that, I mean, at the time, but that was the reaction that I had. So it was just like, wow, yeah, definitely never doing that again. And now we have to have like different colored cups if I'm having decafs. I'm like, don't get yours anywhere near me. But so that's funny. Yeah, I would say the flavor is something I still enjoy, and that's why I sometimes have the decaf. But I do think I should probably just eliminate it altogether. Let's see. We have another question from Sandra. For starting carnivore again, does it have to be steak? I'm just getting used to eating red meat daily and seem to do better with ground beef and eggs. Yep,
Then
I
eat
would
ground
say-
beef and eggs. Yeah.
I love ground beef and eggs.
That's-
Steak
is beef, ground
hamburger
beef is beef.
patties.
Yeah.
Hamburger
Enjoy
patties
it.
all day, every day.
Anything in the
Mhm.
carnivore realm you can have. Doesn't have to be. Steak is expensive. Some people, they can't afford, really, unless you want the really nice cuts of steak if you're going to have a steak, and they're expensive these days. It's very hard to find anything under or around $8 a pound. It's ridiculous these days. So ground beef, you can do so much with it. It's so delicious. And then you add egg yolks in there and salt. Never get tired of it.
Right. Yeah, baby steps for sure. My wife's carnivore now for like 80 days, and she hasn't had a steak in 80 days, which is crazy to me, but she does ground beef, she does patties, she does eggs, she does chicken. It's interesting. Like, so you said you're just getting used to eating red meat. I've seen that from other people too. My sister is about to hit 1 year on carnivore. And I remember when she started, like 3 months into it, I was at her house, I was making ribeyes, and she didn't eat any of it. And similar to you, she wasn't like ready to eat steak yet. She was fine with ground beef and other things, but after a while, like a switch goes off. I think she was in like month 5 or 6, and she called me and she's like, I'm craving like a fatty ribeye now. And that was it. Ever since then, she's eating steak again now. So baby steps is good, but yeah, ground beef and eggs is great. That's probably one of the most frequently eaten meals on my carnivore journey. Every morning, pretty much, ground beef and eggs.
Yeah, and I think that ground beef and eggs is incredibly economic as well. It's like one of the cheapest meals that you can make on carnivore, and you can eat a lot of it until you're satisfied, which is how we're supposed to be eating. I think that this mindset, and correct me if I'm wrong, this mindset could be from, that red meat is bad for us. So usually the meat that is recommended would be like a lean meat, like chicken breast or fish. And so it's going to, if you were eating those things for so many years, I could definitely understand the switch over to red meat. It might feel really heavy and you're not used to it. But I think as time goes on and your body realizes, oh, this is an option now, it's going to, like everyone was saying, you'll start to crave it. So enjoy your ground beef and eggs, and enjoy any meal that makes you feel like you're going down the right path and it makes you feel good, and happy eating.
Yes, I like runny, like half runny egg yolks mixed into my ground beef. It's like the best thing ever. Okay. Hardway Alaska asks, how do I put healthy weight back on? I'm assuming you're carnivore. Maybe if you're still in here, how long have you been carnivore and how much, I'm assuming muscle you're wanting to put back on, right? What do y'all think?
If it's muscle, it's you eat a lot of protein and fat and lift heavy things. Just lift heavy things if you can. If I do know a person who is basically emaciated, extremely skinny. I think maybe because they had such low fat all their life, their bile ducts were clogged up, and every time they ate, they had pain. They had severe pain. And the advice that I didn't give them, but other people gave them, was to actually eat carbohydrates to gain some fat because they had no fat on their body. Now, I don't know if that's good advice or not, but the person was severely underweight. So maybe there's a place for that, for gaining weight. I don't know. What do you all think?
Yeah, I've seen that advice given as well. And there again, I think if the person's not sensitive to the food and they're not triggered into, one of these binging addictive, repercussions of eating something like that, then I don't think there's anything wrong with having a little fruit or having, something on the side. That being said, if you're concerned about inflammation or any of the sort of things we know about the Randall cycle, I mean, there's still I feel like there's still a decent debate going back and forth between what, if it really needs to be super, super clean carnivore for optimal results, which I think probably many of us would argue that that would be optimal. But I think there's always room for some flexibility for specific cases. And so there again, I think primarily the advice stands to, because it is easy to undereat on this way of eating, especially in the beginning, because you're so satiated, because your whole metabolic function is changing and you're tapping into fat, like you never have before. And so, and it may just be perception, like maybe you're used to being a certain size and this is perhaps your optimal body weight where your body wants to be. So there's a lot of nuance to it and detail. But yeah, if you're wanting to, build more muscle and primarily just get stronger and healthier, then yeah, I would stick with carnivore and just make sure you're eating enough. You could maybe open your window up bigger and eat like 3 meals a day instead of 2 big ones or 1 huge one or something like that. That might help. And then it's the training. You have to earn the muscles still. So unless anybody else has a comment, we have another question. Janice asks or says 12 weeks in to carnivore, I'm assuming, and still depressed, still not fat adapted. Have you heard it taking longer for some people? This is a complaint. I can definitely speak on this, but I'll let anyone else go first who has a thought.
I just know that it's different for everybody. All of our physiologies are different. I question yourself and really look at what you're eating. Some people think they're doing carnivore and they're still adding some condiments which have high fructose corn syrup. They're adding spices which might have some sugar in it. They may think they're doing carnivore in their brain, and I'm not saying you're not, Janice, but I don't know. I know that some people didn't realize that some carbohydrates were sneaking in there and they were not in ketosis, and it's taking longer and longer and longer. And everybody's different. Some people can get into it quickly, and some people it takes longer, and just the smallest little bit of carbs would keep you out of ketosis. So my advice is to really maybe do a diary and write down everything you're eating, and make sure that, and read ingredient labels, and make sure that, because everything should be single ingredient foods anyway, that nothing is sneaking in that is a carb. You should be fat adapted by now in 12 weeks, don't you guys think? Usually it's 6 to 8 weeks is full adaptation for keto adaptation.
Yeah, I totally agree with what John's saying there. And I hear this from people often too. And like you said, they often think I'm doing carnivore just like you, but then when you investigate a little bit more, maybe there's one or two things off, and one or two things off on carnivore could really mess you up and kick you out of ketosis. There's things too, like the Keto Mojo app. You could try that, and like, but a food diary, if you're eating whole foods, you should do it as well. But I'd really take a closer look and make sure you're being 100% strict, and that you're getting enough fat too. Like some people say, I'm doing strict carnivore like you, and then I'll talk to them more and they're just eating like chicken breast and fish and things like that. They're not actually getting the fat that they need. So I would take a closer look, like John said, at what you're eating.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
For
Ellie.
someone, oh, thanks. For someone who I suffered with depression for so many years as well. And I definitely think that although maybe you are fat adapted, and maybe that's why, maybe you are fat adapted, but you're still not seeing the results of the depression lifting. Maybe there is something that you can do that's not food related, that you can look, deep inside and think about what are the things that are troubling you or were troubling you. And I think that as you continue to eat this way, it does get better. And you will start to have more energy and you'll sleep better. And like when all those things are in alignment, I think that's when the depression really lifts. And I know it's sometimes it might be frustrating when you hear all these people, including myself, I'm one of them, that's like, everything changed within 30 days. But I think that there are some things that take time. And just know that you're giving yourself the best opportunity to allow the depression to lift. You're giving yourself the best opportunity to have better sleep and more energy and to put your foot forward. And I think that is really empowering to know that I am going to get better. Having those positive affirmations being said to yourself that I can get better. I am doing this to fuel my body and I'm going to do this for me. And just changing your mindset with just the language, even if you don't fully mean it. Because I feel like sometimes, I would say, I love myself, but I didn't really feel it until several months later, even though I felt like the depression for the most part had lifted. So I know that's, I don't know. To me, I think that the way we speak to ourselves is really important along with the food.
I just want to add one thing to that too. Besides just your nutrition and your diet, there's other things you could be doing as well, potentially, that maybe you haven't considered. I used to look at it like, oh, I'm just eating meat. Now my depression's gone and I'm all healed. But it's really more than that. It's kind of returning to what's natural for humans and getting like sunlight in your eyes first thing in the morning, resetting your circadian rhythm can help with your sleep. I know that helped me. Getting my sleep in order really helped me with my depression. Part of that was carnivore, but part of it was doing some other things, getting exercise, getting fresh air, just doing the kind of the natural things that humans have been doing from the start of time. Some of those things combined might be able to help you along with what you're eating and your nutrition.
That's what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Go outside, just being outside. There's something powerful about just feeling the wind and just, it's such a sensory experience. And I was depressed for so long that some of that way of thinking became more habitual than it was physical. And so some days I felt like I can choose this depression or not. And some days I didn't have a choice. So some of it may still be habitual and there may just be times where you just have to choose not to allow it to pull you under. But I totally get the depression. Sometimes you just got to challenge yourself with something hard and then you feel really good when you do it. But like sitting around playing games on your phone does not feel good. And you're never going to feel good if you have something like that you have to stop doing and get up and go do something that makes you feel good. And it's not the dishes. I hate doing the dishes, but I feel better when they're done. And I'm trying to get out and take more walks. And it feels so good. It feels so good to just get out and do something hard.
Finding something that makes you happy is different for every one of us. Some people, it's learning a new language. It's learning how to play a new instrument. Some people, it's playing a sport, trying something they never tried before. I mean, think of a toolbox. Put a lot of stuff in that toolbox that you can reach into. It could be puzzles. It could be something outside, grounding, sunlight, bicycle riding, walking. A pet, if you've never had a dog before, will brighten your life up and give you so much unconditional love. There are so many things other than eating great food that help a person with mental and emotional health. So it's important to fill that. A lot of people's toolboxes are just, they're empty. They don't have anything to go to except caffeine or alcohol or sugar or tobacco or, any other drugs, because we like to self-medicate when we're miserable. Instead, you go into those things that are helpful and beneficial. Get a book, learn some. I get excited when I learn new knowledge. I just all the bells and whistles go off in my head when I learn something I never knew before. I get so excited I have to make a video about it, and that's why I make videos.
Yeah, and Janice, I guess one last thing too is community can help you as well. So if you're doing this for a while and you feel like you're stuck, the carnivore community is amazing, whether it's on YouTube comments or groups. And there's lots of even like free groups out there you can join on Facebook and elsewhere that can maybe help you out with some of this as well.
Yep, y'all nailed it. The things that, because I've been sort of a slow healer, I guess, if I had to put a term forward. And I have reason to believe that I wasn't fat adapted at like 6 months. And I talk about that on my channel in my sleep videos and things, why I think, just for me personally, I was eating too much protein and not enough fat because I wasn't tracking. And I was eating too much overall. And so I don't think, and because I started this relatively lean. And so that would be my first question is like, are you trying to lose weight, or are you already relatively lean? Because it might actually be even slightly more difficult to tap into your fat if you don't have an overabundance of it. And so you might have to work a little bit harder with some tracking to really dial in the macro that makes you feel the best. And again, with the eating window, playing around with what intermittent fasting schedule works best for you. It took me, like, I don't know, 9-10 months total to really figure out, like, okay, this is how much food my body wants, and this is when I feel the most energized. And I was a mess for a while. And so I can understand, that it's frustrating. But it really is an individual thing. And like all the comments everybody else said, carnivore is a great tool. As far as mental health goes, but all these other things really do help. I've noticed being in the sun is just like transformed it's like exponentially increased the benefits. I guess I'd put it that way. It's like my mood is so much better. I think clearer when I spend more time outside, all that kind of stuff, and moving more and all that. So hopefully that helps. And everybody in the chat, you're all throwing in similar and excellent suggestions too. So thanks, everybody.
Nia. Oh,
yes.
Just on what we're saying, Into Sounds at 752 asks, how does everyone know when they are and aren't fat adapted? How can you tell? I actually have that same question. I think that's a good question.
That's a really good question. And I think somebody brought up, you can get the Keto Mojo meter and you can prick your finger and see your glucose and your ketones and see if you're 0.5 or higher in ketones. And then you can do the GKI, which is they combine the glucose and the ketones to see where you are in your metabolic rate there. And you can just, that's the best way to know if you're in ketosis. Does anybody else have another way other than, there's the breath meter and the urine strips, which are not as accurate because they're measuring different kinds of ketones. You want the beta hydroxybutyrate, which comes from the blood, which is much more accurate. But is there any other way that you all know that you're in it? Sometimes I can feel when I'm raging with more ketones than other times. I can feel it. I don't know how to explain it, like an energy.
I agree. And that's why I really think that that I wasn't fat adapted for a long period of time, because when I finally, like, I started losing sleep, and when I really bumped up those fat macros to like 80% of my daily intake, I was hitting 150-ish grams a day for a 125-pound at the time person. So, more grams than my body weight per day. Like it was literally like a switch went off, and I was like, oh, my mood's better. Oh, I have more energy. Oh, I'm sleeping better. Oh, all these things are better. And it wasn't like that. It was like that very intermittently, but not consistently before that. And so I think, like, I have a bunch of theories about why, which I won't get into here for me personally, why that it took so long. But I think you'll definitely feel it. And then I was also tracking, and I was registering ketones, which would technically qualify me to be in ketosis. I was measuring, 0.5, 0.7, 0.9 or whatever. But when I really got fat adapted and was able to shorten my eating window, I was hitting like 2.0, 2.8, stuff like that. If I do one meal a day with a 23-hour fast. So it was like, okay, that's how I can confirm that the way I'm feeling is legit. Anybody else, or I'll move on to the next one. Okay. Aaron asks, is cottage cheese a decent option on carnivore if you tolerate dairy well? Maybe some cottage cheese mixed with some eggs. What are y'all's thoughts? Thank you, guys.
There's this great recipe that I definitely want to make a video on. It's kind of like they take cottage cheese and you have eggs in it, but you put it in a blender. There may be one or two other ingredients, but I actually don't think there is. Maybe I think it's seasonings if you prefer that. I personally don't do seasonings, but you blend it up and then you put it on a baking sheet and you bake it and it becomes like a wrap. So if you're a person who misses your vessels, that's what I like to call them, the vessels of which we used to, eat foods. That's definitely a really great recipe. I wish I remembered where I had found that, but I'm sure you can look up. It's like a carnivore protein wrap with cottage cheese. And yeah, I think it's a great option if you do that. Or there's a lot of recipes I've noticed nowadays if you're looking for more variety. That's like, not just meat and eggs and butter that really work well with cottage cheese. So I love it. I think it's great.
I love cottage cheese. I love cheese. I love dairy. Too much so that I notice when I have too much dairy, I gain weight and I get some acne. So I learned that I have to be really careful. And dairy has casomorphins in there, which is kind of like an addictive. It hits these receptors that a little addictive, a little addiction to it from casein. So go with ease with the cottage cheese. If you can do it, that's great. If you don't sense anything happening, if you can do it and stop and not have more and more and more, then you're okay. I know I can't have a lot of it, or else I can't. It's like sugar. I can't stop with the dairy. So everybody's different.
Just make sure you check the label, because a lot of those things will have carrageenan or, emulsifier, or not emulsifiers, but, the Arabic gum or whatever added to them to make them thicker if they are low fat or not, so make sure you're getting the full fat. Obviously, my kid loves cottage cheese. I mean, in phases, but we usually always have it around because she likes it plain or sometimes with fruit on top. And so I always buy the Daisy brand because it's always available, and it's just cultured full fat milk with nothing else, apparently, according to the label. So,
Yeah, I'll just add real quick. If John kind of mentioned this, but if you're stalling out, ask yourself if you're eating cheese. That's one of the comments I get over and over again from so many people. I stalled on carnivore, and I usually say, are you eating cheese? And most of the time it's yes. And then there's like 50 comments underneath it that say, yeah, I ate cheese and it stalled me out too. So it seems to be a problem for many people, but everyone's different. So some people are okay with it. I did cheese on keto and I stalled out all the time. So I haven't done any cheese on carnivore, but everyone's different. So it's something to experiment with yourself, probably.
yes. All right. We've just hit the hour. Does anyone need to jump out of here. I just see a couple more questions that we can address if y'all have time, or now's your chance to leave if you have to.
I'm good.
Let's hang out.
Okay. Okay. I can do a few more too. Okay, so Murha says, does the panel have tips on how to break the programming on our loved ones, witnessing the massive change in us, but still insisting on cake and bread and belittling keto? This is a tough one.
I have a lot to say. It's really tough. I think that everyone here can agree that the best way to show the benefits of carnivore and break the programming, or like how I like to say, become unredacted, is you need to be the example. You have to show, not tell, because we all have a little rebel inside of us, and that little rebel does not like to be told what to do, especially if they feel so, I say with quotes, feel so good when they eat the cake and the bread. I have had my little ones, they started off on carnivore and now they're still 90% meat based. I just dropped the title because I wanted to be, as accurate as possible for my viewers, but they still ask for cake and they still ask for bread and they still have tea parties. And then she'll be like, "Mommy, I made you this delicious blueberry pie." And I'm just like, thank you so much. I think that it's ingrained in our culture. Every holiday is based around these kind of foods, and it's really tough. So, but I believe in you, and I believe in that we can all just try to be the best role model we can be, because it is hard, and it's a little bit of ignorance too. They just don't want to play along, not play along, but listen. Like my father, he means so well and he loves me so much, but he basically told me, he's like, "You're not a carnivore. Your colon's gonna get all clogged up with meat and all these horrible things. Don't feed your kids so much meat. You're gonna regret this." And I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna hold my breath, not allow and breathe, and not allow the anger and this defense mechanism come out and be like, "Do you know this what happened and this and this is." It could be so easy to turn into a combative argument. So don't do that, because they'll never try it, because they'll be like, "You're a crazy meat eater. We're not gonna listen to you."
Yeah, I totally agree. I firmly believe that you can't change other people. They're just going to resist. You can't force them to. So the best way is to inspire them. And then they kind of think, "Oh, this was my own idea." But that's probably the best way to do it. That's our whole idea with our documentary, Healing Humanity. We're not telling anyone, "Hey, eat a carnivore diet." No, here's just a whole bunch of examples of individuals that are doing it, and here's their outcomes, and do what you want with that information. The other thing is just kind of being patient in baby steps. Man, I'm on day 450 of carnivore. It took my wife a year before she decided to start, but amazingly and surprisingly, she finally came around. But I didn't tell her "Hey, you got to do carnivore with me." She's too bullheaded. She would never listen to me. But she decided to do it on her own, and that's what people will do. The only other thing I'll say real quick too is, you may be able to inspire them creatively. So depending on your loved one, if they have a particular issue or ailment, there's probably a YouTuber out there that has a similar story that could inspire them. If you know someone unfortunately going through cancer, my friend Jeff DeProsperous has a YouTube channel. He's going through cancer. He's doing carnivore. There's so many people out there now with YouTube channels that have different things that are relatable to people. So you could maybe encourage them with a relatable video, but you're probably not going to have much luck trying to tell them what to do.
I've also found that people don't want to listen to the family members as much. That's why having, referring to an outside video, like Harry says, often helps. And they'll listen to somebody, a stranger, over a loved one. My parents, my family, they see me 5 years. They see how healthy I am, and nothing. Because they knew me before. They knew how I used to eat. They know you from when I was a child. But I did send my brother a few videos Some of them were from Dr. Berry because his son was having issues with eczema. And, I threw a couple other videos in there and he watched them. So I'm like, maybe, who knows? We can just be we have to live our lives, be as healthy as we can. And we're the role model for our loved ones. And then, when they're ready, they'll see. Sometimes people have to get hit on the head. They have to hit like a rock bottom. Unfortunately, they have to hit like a massive depression, or they have to have something bad happen to them before they make a big change. Sadly, that happens to a lot of people, and that's when they change.
Yeah. And hopefully, sadly, they don't wait till it's too long, because doing this whole documentary, man, I've heard that story several times. Jeff DeProsperous, stage 4 cancer. Lee Copus lost his colon. Hear the story time and time again. We just lost a really close friend of our family, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and wouldn't have happened if he would have done something sooner. So sadly, you're right though. Most people won't do it till they hit some sort of rock bottom.
Ellie, so you guys just did an interview with that fertility makeup lady, and I sent that video to our nephew's wife, who's just lost her 3rd pregnancy in a row. And I'm heartbroken for her, and I've been trying to talk to her, because I'm like, I know how to help you, but they're never available, so I haven't even seen her in months and months and months. And so I just sent her that video, and I'm crossing my fingers. It was such a beautiful, powerful video about there are things we can do. We're not helpless, and we can do something to take charge of our health. So I'm really grateful that you interviewed that lady.
Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed that. Yeah, we're always on Linus Lifestyle Live. We're always trying to find real people, real stories, like how we've all shared it. So I'm so glad you were able to share that. Hopefully the message gets to her and she's willing to listen, because that's such a sad time for her, and I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode as well. I'm always curious to learn more about that. It's because it's like literally everything can be improved by the proper human diet, and that's tragic. And I hear stories too where I'm just like, I wish you would listen to me, or I wish I could send you this and you would watch it or whatever. But unfortunately, that's not always something people are open to. And so we got to just keep pressing on, trying to be the best example we can. Marlene asks, are herbs considered carbs? I grow my own, so they are pure. What do y'all think? People have herbs?
I don't think they're considered carbs necessarily, but I think herbs are medicinal, and you're not supposed to take medicine constantly. You take it, one thing at a time when you need it. And I think we overuse herbs a lot. But, I'm not an herbal expert. That just feels true.
Spices, oregano, basil, all the stuff in the spice rack are concentrated forms of plants. And that's why they taste so strong. And our brain recognizes that. And according to Dr. Chafee, you need to stay away from them even more. So growing them in your garden, a little fresh oregano, a little fresh basil might be healthier than the dried stuff. But again, it's not carnivore. Can you have a little bit? Of course. I mean, do whatever you want. But it is not from the animal family. It's not going to kick you out of ketosis. It doesn't. The amount of starch that would break down into carbohydrates would be just so minimal.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like plants are medicinal. And so, I'm growing some oregano and I have some lamb's ear on my balcony right now, which you can actually pluck off and apply to a wound, apparently. And it's helpful as like a bandage. And it's so soft. It looks like the shape and of a lamb's ear, and it's super soft. And so I understand why they called it that. But yeah, my interest in that has always been, mean, I'm definitely not an expert, but it's like, I don't think having some things around medicinally is a bad idea. But I agree. I wouldn't think that consuming them on a daily basis or in large quantities would be the best idea, in my opinion.
I think back to before carnivore, and I used to be one of those people that season their meats, like, or any food, take the garlic and you're like pouring it, still pouring it, still pouring, and it boggles my mind because now I don't do any seasonings at all, and I limit salt as well, just for personal preference. And I just think back to those days, or I see these videos of like these moms who are preparing their meals for their kids, or like just cooking videos in general. And you'll always see in the comments, people are like, you didn't season it enough, or wow, finally seasoned enough. And it's like, how much? Like it's people really are abusing the seasonings. And I really agree with Cam. You said that. It's like, it is way too much. So Marlene, why don't you just try it and see how you feel? Because that's going to be the best judge if that's the best for you. But it's crazy out there on the internet with these cooking videos. It's crazy.
And our taste buds come to life when we do carnivore, when we get rid of the sugar off of our palate, and you go for a few months without it, you taste all of the layers and the different meats and the fats. I mean, there's duck fat, there's bacon grease, there's so many flavors in fat and in different beef. I just had lamb loins tonight. The lamb fat is just decadent. You don't need spice. It's just salt. I love my salt.
Sorry, can't type and unmute at the same time. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just seeing some comments about herbs come through, and I've tried, I used to try all that kind of stuff to like heal my gut. It's like I even got this stuff called black garlic, which is like, I think it's just fermented garlic. It tastes really sweet. It's like kind of delicious, and it's really soft and mushy. But you're supposed to be able to like crush all that. Like I reacted to that stuff so bad. I've done like the oil of oregano drops and all these kind of herbal remedies, and I could never seem to even tolerate that stuff. So that always confused me, because I'm like, these are supposed to be helping me heal, and the garlic and stuff would like really give me pain and bloating and like problems, and then I don't know. So maybe if I ever run into a situation, I may try it again someday. But yeah, I think it'd be a negative for me. Let's see. We've got a couple more things here. I did answer this in the chat, but Tesfaye asked if you can be fat adapted without being in ketosis. And you can. The body can burn fat. I don't know if you can hear that harmonica in the background, how much that comes through. Okay. I adjusted all my mic settings. So I'm like, it used to cut it out really good, but now we're going to have some live entertainment in the background. But yes, even like high carb people, you can tap into your fat if you restrict your intake low enough. Your body will use fat, versus ketosis is more like you have made that metabolic shift from primarily running on glucose and using glucose as the primary fuel system to breaking your fat down and producing ketones, which are then the primary fuel source instead of glucose, is the difference.
Right. And we'll go in and out of ketosis depending on the time of day. You wake up a lot of times not in ketosis because of the dawn phenomenon. And it doesn't mean you're not fat adapted. Fat adaptation is a level you've reached when the mitochondria of your cells have switched over, and they're very, very efficient. And you could be not in ketosis for a few hours in the day, and then later in the day, usually for me, it's later in the afternoon, I'm higher in ketosis if I were to measure it on my keto mojo meter. But I'm still fat adapted whether I'm low or high in ketones.
And that's a good question, because it is kind of confusing. It's like, can you be in one without the other?
Yeah, good point. Well, a lot of people get the two confused. They think fat adaptation means you're in ketosis, which you are, but it's kind of two things as well.
Mhm. I've got two more questions that I saw here, if everybody has time. So from Dave, best source to find what supplements to take. Ooh, hot button question.
That's
What supplements do
controversial.
you think that you need and why?
That's controversial, and there's a different answer for every human being. My stock answer is, we all need. If we're eating properly, we're eating from the animal kingdom. We're getting every fat soluble and water soluble vitamin. We're getting all of our minerals. We may not be getting enough magnesium because through modern farming techniques, the ground is stripped of magnesium. So the cows that eat the grass are not produced. It's not in the meat. So maybe taking a magnesium supplement is often recommended by doctors that I watch on YouTube. And salt. Some people need potassium, a little extra. And I think that's about it. Go out in the sun to get your vitamin D. If you eat right and you exercise, you're getting pretty much everything you need. Supplementation depends on the person. Maybe some people need certain things because of medical issues.
Yeah, I don't have much to add to that. I was just going to say that last part, like my buddy Jeff, he's on all sorts of supplements, but that's because he's also going through cancer and chemo, and it's taking a toll on his body for those reasons. Me personally, I don't supplement much. I just get a lot of sunshine, get most of the stuff I need out of the meat, but people are different for different reasons. So you could always get some tests done and see where you're at, see if you're deficient in anything. But for the most part, I love how Dr. Chafee said this a long time ago. He's like, you can get everything you need from meat, a big fatty piece of meat, and just thrive. Can't say the same thing for vegetables, but it's pretty much what I've been doing. Just eat the fatty meat, and I've been feeling pretty good.
I don't know where I heard this from, and this is like a little crass, so I apologize, but it's basically expensive pee. Most of it just ends up leaving your body. And ever since I heard that, I just kind of like, yeah, I think it's best not to take them unless you, like everyone was saying, if you are taking a blood test and you see you're really deficient in something, is it going to hurt you? No. I actually give my kids a multivitamin every once in a while just to make sure that things are okay, because I have one of mine is a little bit of a picky eater. So it's just to be on the safe side.
Awesome. How about we'll go till 7:30 and then we'll, because we've got a few more good questions in here, kind of along the same lines as Dave's. With supplements, I'll pop this one up first, but then Dolores, we're coming back to your question. So Andrea asks, for you longtime carnivores, do you still drink your electrolyte packets like Element, or have you found that meat, salt, and water is enough?
If I don't take an electrolyte, maybe 2 servings a day, I will get muscle cramps, and my PVC erratic heartbeats will come. Like, I don't know why after a year, I still have to have my electrolytes or I have problems.
Yeah, I don't take them anymore. When I first started carnivore, I did electrolytes the first couple of weeks. One of the things I love about carnivore is it can really hear my body better. Like when I was on the standard American diet, I was putting so much garbage in, I couldn't tell if I was sick or muscle aches or headaches or what it was from. So now I just really listen to my body closely. If I'm out working in the sun a bunch, maybe I'll have a little bit of electrolytes here or there. If I start getting a headache or muscle cramps, I'll start having some. But I haven't had any regularly for, probably a year now. The first month or so I did regularly, but I just don't need to. But everyone's different, so.
Yeah, I actually don't supplement with any electrolytes. I'm horrible at taking medication and vitamins and all that stuff because I just forget. And honestly, I just don't feel like I need it. I did have some electrolytes when we were moving heavy furniture, and I was like doing that for 6-7 hours, which I still can't believe I was not tired or had any muscle aches. But I just wanted to make sure that, because I was sweating, which is mind-boggling to me because I used to be so obese and have such bad knee pain and stuff like that. But to answer your question, I just rely on food, and I barely even salt my food anymore also. And it's been 415 days for me.
I have recently just gone almost no salt and no electrolytes. I was doing a ton of salt in the beginning, and then I dropped way back, and then I felt like I needed a ton again. And I I make my own at home, so I, add the magnesium and potassium and basically make the Element copycat recipe. But I was getting, about a month ago, I was still getting like some loose stool. My psoriasis spots were just like itching after every meal. And I was like, I tried eliminating all these foods, and I was like, I don't think it's the food. Like, it's something else. And then I got a couple of just a comment from way back came to mind, and a couple of the things happened. And I was like, I wonder if it's the salt. So I cut it, reduced it slowly over 4 or 5 days. And then I've had almost no salt for about a month. And I don't find, and I just sort of, again, like Ellie was saying, I forgot to continue to take any magnesium or potassium as well, because I just took the sodium out and made the same batch with the other two. And I feel like I haven't needed any. But like Carrie said, it's hot now, and if we're out a lot at the pool, or, I'm getting a lot of sun and sweating a lot or something, like, I will put a little salt on my food if I feel like I need some. But my need for it has drastically reduced, at least as of this moment.
I have a reverse osmosis system under my kitchen sink with a dispenser on the top. So it takes out, the fluoride, takes out everything and all the elements. So I add Redmond Relight, the no flavor, no stevia, it's just flavorless, which has magnesium, sodium, potassium, and some other trace minerals. I add a little tiny, like way less than what they suggest, scoop to every one of these containers. And then this is water, ice, and my Redmond Relight. So I only add it to replace the electrolytes that I purposefully took out to get the other crap out of my drinking water. I wanted to share that.
Cool. Okay, we'll go back to Dolores's question. 74-year-old carnivore, my weight has stalled, but only have about 25 pounds left to lose. It's all in my stomach. Any suggestions? The most fun thing is that my hair is turning red again, and I don't... Ooh, I lost the second part. So I don't know what the second part is, but that's super cool that your hair is turning back to its natural color. That's super neat. 25 pounds left, all in your stomach. I would say the lame, boring answer, giving it time. We all hit, plateaus here and there, depending on, whatever your diet was previously, before you found this way of eating. Sometimes it takes a minute for the body to understand that it's okay to let go of that extra. And like a lot of people have commented tonight, and we've talked a little bit about adding some gentle movement in, like longer walks. You can combine that with getting out in the sun, walking a dog, or doing something like that helps. Especially walking after a meal or something that also kind of prompts your body to burn through any glycogen stores and sort of tap back into the fat burning process. And so, not saying like eat less, move more is the thing here, but just, adding in that movement, that the aerobic exercise, which doesn't have to be super intense. It can just be walking or swimming or whatever it is that you like to do, gardening, playing tennis, whatever. That is primarily a fat burning state. And so it upregulates your metabolism, very significantly compared to just sitting around or, not doing a whole lot. But it doesn't have to be super intense. And that may be the key for you.
Yeah.
Nia. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Well, I was going to change the subject, so you go ahead.
Okay, I'll just say real quick. That's awesome. Your hair's turning red again. That's really cool. You said you have 25 pounds left to lose. it's like the first 25 pounds you lose is usually a lot easier than the last 25. The last 25, the last weight you have to lose is usually the hardest to lose. One thing I would say is, are you eating cheese? Because that might be stalling you a little bit. And then the other thing is, when I hear people stalling, one thing that sometimes it's just natural, like you've lost a lot of weight pretty quickly and your body's healing and other things are going on. So it may take some time. But the other thing is, maybe like if it were me, I would try to switch things up because our bodies get really weird. They get into these routines. So like if I was doing carnivore and I was going along and then all of a sudden I stalled, maybe I would try lion diet, just for 3 days, not for the rest of your life, but maybe for 3 days. Maybe if I was doing lion diet, maybe I'd try a little intermittent fasting, just try to switch something up a little bit because our bodies get in these weird routines. So I'd say that if you're eating cheese, try stopping that for a while. Otherwise, it might just take a while because that last 25 pounds is always the hardest for most people to lose.
I'm going to say one thing before we switch topics. I've learned that the body has this protective mechanism. It thinks you're in a starvation mode because you're not eating the way you ate before, so it halts, and you're in a wait mode. And some people's wait time is 6 months or a year. And then everybody who persists, it always starts to come off. That 25 pounds is going to come off. And your body's going to realize it's okay. It's okay to lose a little more weight. We're not in a famine, and the weight will come off. Everybody who has a lot of weight to lose, everybody hits that stall phase. I watch a woman named Kim Howerton. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She is so wonderful. I refer you to her. Find her on YouTube. She talks a lot about this topic. And you can find a lot of information from her. Kim Howerton, Howerton.
So I was just going to ask a question on our way out, as you know, when it's time to end this, is if everybody has a big dream, and including everybody that's watching, what is your big dream that when you become who you want to be on your carnivore diet, when you have that energy and that health, what is that big dream that you want to achieve? And for me, okay, and I coined this word before you guys started talking about it from Texas, is I want to create a giant place with millions of dollars that I don't have called Camp Carnivore, and have like a place for people to come to detox from food, to learn how to butcher, like just like an amazing place called Camp Carnivore for carnivores, family reunions, get-togethers. And yeah, that's like when I have my magic energy and my magic money.
Like Disneyland for carnivore.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go.
Or like a truck stop. I've always like Buc-ee's is sort
Buc-ee's,
of this crazy place, you know, and I had that thought. I'm like, what if you came here and it was like, you know, a gas station or something where there was no junk and you could just like get gas, go to the bathroom, and like load up on barbecue or something, you know, like real beef jerky that was good or something. It's like, that would be an amazing idea. That's a good question. I wasn't going to say, well, I have several, but I wasn't going to say this at all out loud because I'm like, no one steal this idea, which I don't know. It's not like it's a completely brand new idea, but I've always thought it'd be super cool to create, like, I would call it open gym, and it would be like parks or playgrounds, but for adults. So instead of having like you go inside to the gym and you're sort of in this like box, you know, and it smells weird and sweaty and it's gross, it's like make this really cool, almost like playground, like obstacle course / parkour / like with pull-up, you know, bars, you could do pull-ups and functional training, like make them just free and open to the public so people could have more access to, you know, training and getting in shape and having fun and playing, you know, while getting fit, versus having to, you know, go into a place or drive there, you know, like make them like parks kind of thing, call it open gym. So no one steal it because I've already decided I'm going to do it. So
Yeah.
That's so cool. Something like a big dream of mine. I definitely never thought that my YouTube channel would be a thing. I actually started a YouTube channel when I was like 16, 17 years old, and I'm 34 now. So that was a long time ago. Many years ago. And I've always found that I've always wanted to be someone who can help others. And so I feel like this is kind of like the beginning of, this is my platform and this is my space to express myself as creatively as possible, with the ultimate goal of just spreading the message of that you can heal your body. And when you heal that body, you can do so many great things and you're no longer going to be held back. And also have a very large part of my heart goes to the children that are being raised on processed foods and seed oils and dyes. And it really hurts me when I see all of these people, and I'm not judging. Like, I seriously am not judging. Like, it could come from just not knowing or financial, you think that financially you can't do it. Like, we're a one income household and our budget is very tight. I'm being honest, we're on EBT, it's like we do it. We eat a family of 4 on, carnivore plus like a little fruit for my kids. But for the most part, it's like, so for me, it's like, I just want to find all the moms out there and share how we can feed our kids. Even if you're feeding your kids meat-based low carb, I love you. I think you're doing fantastic. Or if you're all the way up to carnivore or keto, I think you're fantastic. And I just want more children to not grow up to be sick. And that's the message that is on my heart today. And I want to share that.
That's beautiful. That's a worthy goal. Mine is to just grow my YouTube channel and reach as many people as I can, because people who have grown their YouTube channel reached me. And my health is my wealth. I am the wealthiest man on the planet Earth because I've never felt so amazingly well in my entire life. I'm going to be 59 in less than a month, and I feel 29 years old. So it's priceless. It's a gift I want to give to other people. So I just want to reach more people through social media. And that's my goal. And I'm working towards that goal. And a lot of you are doing that too. And that's why I have so much respect for you.
Nice. Wow, you guys are all awesome. You guys are all inspiring. I love all these ideas. Cami, you too. I remember you so specifically, just real quick, from the 24-hour live stream. You gave a little testimonial and you said in it so passionately, carnivore has freed me. And I never forget that. It was really cool how you said it. But your Camp Carnivore thing, man, that gets me so fired up. You mentioned we did that kind of in Austin. Not exactly like what you're describing, but I was like, I want to do more of this. I recently interviewed a guy on my channel. His name is Lash. He had psoriasis for 30 years, so much suffering. He'd wake up in the morning and his sheets were like bloody and just horrible pain. Did carnivore, depression, psoriatic arthritis, psoriasis. You guys know the story. He's just absolutely thriving right now. But he said the same thing as you, Cami. He's like, I want to put together like a center or something where people can come and just heal. But he's like, I don't have millions of dollars to do this. But when I interviewed Dr. Kiltz for our documentary, one of the things he said that really stuck with me, and I believe this to be true, is when you are passionate about something and you're doing it for the right reasons, the universe will come together and it's going to make that happen. So we got Lash and Cami now, both with the same thing. I'm on board too. That would be amazing. My dream is what I'm doing with the documentary is to reach millions of people, not for myself, but to get these stories out. Like, this has become so much bigger than me. Get Bill Knott's story out, Jeff DeProsper's story out, to the hopeless. There's so many hopeless people in the world right now, especially with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, things like that. So that is my dream, is to reach those people that are hopeless. And again, not force them, hey, you got to do carnivore, but just look, here's a tool in your toolbox that you didn't even know was possible for you, that has helped me with lifelong battle with depression and so many other people that I've interviewed. So that's really my big dream. And just one last thing real quick too. There is, similar to what Cami was saying, you guys know my buddy, Jeff DeProsperous. We have a shared friend. His name is Dwight. I'm doing a video with him in a while. Dwight is the one that told Jeff about carnivore and fasting. He's helped him so much. Dwight is an awesome, incredible individual. He's helped 62 people reverse type 2 diabetes. He is starting a wellness center completely for free. He's like a businessman. He's got several different businesses, but he's starting a wellness center. He's actually asked me if he could call it Healing Humanity. And it's where people can go to exercise and to learn about proper nutrition and to reverse their type 2 diabetes. So he's actually doing it. He told me about that. I'm like, we got to like do these all over. And he's like, I'm never going to charge a penny for it. It's completely free just to help heal people. I'm like, man, that was a beautiful dream right there. Like get those all over the world for people. It'd be absolutely incredible. So yeah, that's my dream, is to help reach the hopeless. So
Awesome. Yeah. Did everybody went, right? Everybody got to share. Okay. Yeah, that's a fantastic place to wrap it up. And so thank you to everybody on the panel for being here tonight and sharing. And thanks to everybody in the chat. You guys are super awesome, so supportive, great suggestions, helping each other. I really appreciate that. And just another testament to how the proper nutrition can change everything, right? We're just continually, the more we change and improve, the more we can help others. And I think all of our dreams are to, in some form or fashion, help other people discover this message and heal. So thanks everybody for sticking around for the full over 90 minutes tonight. And we'll be back next week with another Thursday night episode. Take care, keep eating that meat, and we'll see you next time.